Welcome to another top 5, guys. We still haven't heard anything about nerfs coming, so at this point I'm assuming they're probably gonna be coming after the World Championship, so might as well give you guys the best decks in the meantime, so you guys can hit easy legend. In this video, we're gonna go over 5 of the best decks right now in Hearthstone, but we're also gonna check out each individual class and all of the working archetypes for it, so stick around to the end so you have a better idea of what you should be playing with, as well as what you're playing against. And if you're serious about Hearthstone, drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget you can hire for some Hearthstone coaching. And I'll do my best to help you hit legend for the first time or reach higher legend. Now, let's check out the decks.
You are not prepared!
The first deck on the list, no one's surprise, is gonna be Pirate Shaman, and when you look at the stats, it's literally nothing but different iterations of Shamans, so this would definitely be a deck on the lookout for nerfs in the very near future, but until then you can definitely be abusing this deck for some easy climbing. The deck goes nice and wide, it has access to Bloodlust, it has a good amount of chip damage, and it basically refills the board turn after turn until the opponent stops kicking, and a lot of the time they do. We are running a couple of Spirit Claws in here, so you have easier time actually activating your dangerous Cliffside, but you also have Horn of the Windlord, which kinda does the same. And you don't have any other ways of actually buffing your weapon, so it is mainly used to either go for dangerous cliffside action, or you could also remove some big men from the board, shrinking them down to free freeze. Obviously it's also 12 damage on the stick, so that can be nice, but still. We also have a couple of Hero Oracles, then again, who doesn't nowadays? And you basically are using it to draw your spells on time. You don't have that much benefit from spell damage, aside from your Spirit Claw, aside from the pop-up book, and from time to time you might want to use it for some extra damage on your Lightning Storm, but all around it's not meant for you to really care about the spell damage all that much, even though having +2 attack on the weapon definitely ain't no joke. We also have Hosen in here, making things like your Sigil of Skydiving, your dangerous Cliffsides a lot more dangerous, and we also have Ziliax for that situation, but that works on everything, not just the pirates. And we also have a couple of trusty companions which can thin out the deck nicely, and you basically get to have a very good idea of what you will be drawing, because you don't have that many of each tribe in the deck. The backstage bouncers are also massive tempo for you, because they are just way too much stats for too early, and you could be plopping these guys as soon as turn 3. For the matchups, we can see that almost everything is going to be green for you. The only thing that somewhat has a chance would be Big Shaman, which is basically another Shaman deck, and also Control Warrior might be a little bit on the iffy side, but literally everything is bright green. Like, I don't remember seeing stats this good lately, and yeah, Shaman is just crushing it from Diamond to Legend right now. Mulligan-wise, here's what it looks like going first, and second you're always gonna want your patches. Murloc Glowfin is great, Sigil is nice, Gorgon Zormo is great, Greedy Partner, Trusty Companion if you already have a 1-drop definitely is gonna be a keep, Spirit of the Claw is nice, Pop-Up Book, Cactus Cutter is an okay keep, especially if you already have a 1-drop and a Greedy Partner, and Hosen is absolutely insane if you have a Sigil of Skydiving. Ziliax can also be a consideration if you have the Sigil, or even patches or the 1-drop, but the Sigil is kinda very important for the Ziliax keep. As for on the coin, again it's pretty much same stuff, so mulligan accordingly. For other good Shaman decks, you are gonna see like a lot of different iterations of these Pirate Shamans, basically Swarm Shamans, whatever you like to call them, it's basically the same concept. We can also see things like Big Shaman doing quite nicely, not that big a sample size here, but still very strong. Asteroid Shaman is also up there somewhere. Yeah, here's one. Pretty small sample sizes here, but you get the picture. Anything Shaman is climbing insanely well with tons of stats. It's just insane how many games we have for Shamans right now. Like, look at this nonsense. This is for the last 3 days from Diamond to Legend. Like, the first 3 make up 50,000 games, so that is insane popularity right now. So definitely expect several nerfs to Shaman really soon. On the number 2 spot, we still have Elemental Mage doing as good as ever, basically. And not much has changed for the deck either. It still basically runs the perfect 30 we have been seeing from before the nerfs. It's literally card for card the same thing. The only change that happened to the deck is Lamplighter only deals 4 damage now, but that's still definitely not bad. And it's not like this was your only win condition for the deck, so obviously the deck is still very strong. The deck is simple as mud, so no need to explain too much for it. I have some guides for it, coaching videos, gameplay, all of that good stuff, so definitely give a check to those out if you really want to know what you should be doing with this deck. But yeah, right now the deck is very simple, very good, and very effective. effective, so give it a go if you still haven't reached Legend especially. For the matchups, we can see Corpse Cult Death Knight, Flood Paladin if you manage to find one, some of the Chamois lists, and Control Warrior might be a problem, but again, everything else is super green, so climbing is not gonna be your problem. And as for the mulligan, you basically are trying to curve out as good as you could. Aqua Archivist is absolutely insane, in which case you could be keeping things like Saroon, like the 5-mana guy, but really try to be curving out, so try and find a 1-drop and then start thinking about bigger men. Blazing Aggression can also be an insane keep, especially if you already have a 1 and 2 drop. Shell Spider is not something you're gonna keep unless you already have a 1 drop, and even then it's kind of whatever. Flame Revenant is pretty nice, again try to have a 1 drop however. As for On the Coin, again pretty much same stuff, but here Saroon and Tainted Remnant become even more keepable. Again, Aqua Archivist, absolute MVP. For other mage decks, we can see plenty of elemental mages still. Here's the win rate actually, but yeah, nothing but elementals for the top spots, and under 50% we can see some other stuff like Spell Mage and such, but they're just not as good obviously. At number 3 spot we also have Zarimi Priest. It's still an absolute monster of a deck. Yes, it did get nerfed in the form of Funnel Cake, but the deck just transitioned into this variant, and it's still pretty much very top tier. You're still running Crimson Clergy, even though your only overheal mechanic here would be your Dreamboat, which is still kind of fine, and you could obviously also hero power onto the Clergy, but it's just not as MVP anymore. You have a bunch of dragons. Some new inclusions here would be the Shadow Ascendant, which is gonna help you stick boards a little bit longer in the early turns especially. Chillin' Vol'jin is here as well, giving you access to some Hunter cards. But you're honestly not even running any of the Hunter cards, you're literally just running him in here because he's kind of a pretty cool minion for you, and you get to use, let's say, Dreamboat, attack with the 7 attack, and then give that 7 attack to a 1 attack minion for you, or just steal some of the opponent's stats. It's just a pretty good minion. Another interesting inclusion is Zephyrus in here. It can be pretty flexible for you. We also have ETC, and here we can see Deafen, Creation Protocol, and Hot Coals, so you can actually remove some stuff. Ziliax is obviously the +1/-1 module. And yeah, again, check out my Zarimi Priest guide if you really want to know how to play this one. For bad matchups, we can see Demon Hunters are actually going to be troublesome, and some of the Shamans are also not your friend. Pressure Rogue and Spellburst Rogue are also up there, but all of the other popular matchups are going to be pretty good for you. Going first, here's what you're going to be looking for. You are going to try to curve out as good as you can. Gorgon's Arm was pretty nice, Shadow Ascendant if you already have a 1-drop, Orbital Halo can be a pretty MVP. Scale Replica is an okay thing to be doing on turn 2, but I would definitely not straight up hold on to it. If you already have a Crimson Clergy, Dreamboat can also be pretty good. The Power Chord can also be interesting if you have a good 1-drop, like let's say Clergy, Ship Churgeon, that kind of deal. In other cases, probably not such a bright idea. And as for On the Coin, again, try to be curving out as good as you possibly could. For other priest decks, we're gonna have to scroll through a lot of Zarimis, but you can also see some Fishing Priest action happening. It is still looking kind of a wonky deck, but 55% definitely worth a try. Scrolling down further, it's basically more of the same. Highlander Priest barely above 50, so yeah, stick to Zarimi and Fishing Priest, I guess. On number 4 spot, Handbuff Pally is still as broken as ever. Very good deck to still climb to Legend with. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. A lot of stats, a lot of healing, a lot of tempo. This deck has a few tech cards, but nowadays they're basically staples in the deck in the form of a couple of custom enforcers, 1 Razor Scale, and we do have quite a few legendaries in here, but if you don't have Magatha, which honestly everybody should, because she was from the mini set, but let's say if you just didn't buy the mini set and nowadays it's not really worth buying it anymore, you could swap her out for some other form of card draw, like the Spectral Dragon, whatever it's called, that draws you 2 cards at the end of the turn. We also have Toy Captain Terram in here. I would definitely say it makes the deck a lot better. Amidas is also in here. I've seen some lists running no Amidas in their deck just so they can be quicker, but again, I would say she is definitely very flexible, very nice. So I wouldn't try to remove her, since she is also a no-brainer for most Pally decks, so definitely get her if you want to be playing Pally. Ziliax in here is running the Power Module +1 module, so you can actually buff it up, and this thing splits into 2 big Ziliaxes that also double up their attack each turn, so it can be absolutely massive, especially if you magnetize some idiots onto it. We have a single Southsea deckhand, so you can OTK like that, same with Leroy, and you could buff them very nicely with things like Outfit Tailors and obviously the other hand buff stuff. Again, I do have a good guide about this one with coaching gameplay, so give that one a check. As for the matchups, we can see the Dungar Druid, Control Death Knight, Spell Token Hunter, plenty of the Shamans, and Zarimi Priest would be a problem, so it is kinda iffy given how many Shamans you're gonna be facing, but all around I do believe still you should be fine as long as you try and control the Shamans as much as you could. When going first with the deck, you are gonna be looking for things like Instrument Deck, Grim Street, the 1-drops are decent, Gold Banner, Musclotron is fine, Straight Up Weapon could be nice, in which case you're not gonna keep Instrument Deck or the Weapon, you're gonna choose one of those. Depending on the matchup, things like Audio Medic and Tiger's Plushie could be great. And honestly, depending on the matchup, Razor's Kill might also be interesting. As for on the coin, again, you're trying to get the weapon nice and early, you're good early game with the 1-drops, the Gold Banner, Musclotron, and again, depending on the matchup, you would like to get some lifesteal action going as well. In some cases, even Magata might be a consideration. For other good Pally decks, we can also see things like Flood Pally actually being quite high now. I guess they have a bit better matchup against the Shamans. We can also see things like Taurus Pally still doing quite fine. This one is looking particularly interesting with Incendius and such. Some Libram Paladins are also up there, so again, Pally can definitely have plenty of options. You are gonna notice that the stats here are not looking that great, like this is the hand of Pally I showed you, I think. It only has 56 with 2900, but if you actually make it only shows games where people had above 25 games with the deck, you're gonna notice that people actually do have a learning curve with this one, and we can go to 58% with 1900 games, so it seems like a lot of newcomers are picking it up and not doing all that well with it, so I have to add this extra layer of filtering. And lastly, we also have Corpse Skull Death Knight doing pretty good right now. This is the aggressive variant, not the control variant I just showed you on the channel. And yeah, the deck is doing still quite nicely. It has a single copy of Malted Magma, so it is going to be decent against those Shamans, I'd say. And you have a lot of tempo, good amount of corpse generation, and you also have Marrow Manipulators at the end, so you can spit on that thing, and Razzler Dazzler is also included in here, which is kind of interesting. I didn't really see too much of this deck anymore, but the stats usually don't lie. You have a pretty nice curve, you have several Death Rattle minions, so your Brittlebone Buccaneer can double up the Salesman, the Dreadhound Handler, the Harbinger, and last but not least your Reska, which can be huge, even though in this deck she is gonna come a little bit later. We still have buttons in here. He's gonna be drawing you Natural Talent, the Magma, the Down with the Ship, Corpsicles, and Horn of Windlord, and Horn of Winter. And we also have Helya for those pesky draw-heavy decks. Matchup-wise, here's what we can see. Some of the Druids are not gonna be your friend. The Control-y Rainbow Death Knight also has way too much health for you. Weapon Rook, surprisingly, is not gonna be great for you. Hand Buff Pally as well. But like I said, you are gonna be great against the Shamans, so I think that's what you have going for this one. So if you're sick of Shamans, this might be the deck for you. Going first, here's what it looks like. Again, try to be curving out with the good curve. You only have Miracle Salesman as a good 1-drop, so keep that one obviously. Dreadhound Handler is nice. Mining Casualty is pretty MVP. Harbinger is fine. Gorgonzorm on curve is great. Brittlebone on curve is also pretty nice. And depending on the matchup, you also might want to straight up hold on to Helya, like if you see Rogues, definitely straight up hold on to her. She does do well against Warriors as well usually, but against faster classes she's not exactly worth it. Buttons is usually pretty nice as well, giving you all of that card draw. The rest probably not so much. On the coin, it's the same situation, but your 4-drops are a bit more keepable even, because you get to play them on turn 3, but the rest looks the same. For other good Death Knight decks, we can see also Rainbow Death Knights doing quite well, with the more control-y variants. A bunch of different iterations of Corpse Skull Death Knight, Highlander Rainbow Death Knight. I'm not really sure why anybody bothers to be Highlander anymore, with Reno being not as amazing anymore. So yeah, it's either Rainbow or Corpsicle, honestly. For the classes I haven't mentioned, starting off with Demon Hunter, honestly Pirate Demon Hunter could have made it into this list. We can see... Actually, this is not a Pirate Demon Hunter, this is an Aggro Demon Hunter, which is looking kind of interesting. It's basically relying on a lot of attack damage. No pirates whatsoever, you still have a Rana with the acupuncture nonsense. Looking quite interesting indeed, but also, yeah, Pirate Demon Hunter is also quite up there. We can see 59 with not that bad sample size actually, so you definitely have options for Demon Hunter right now. You can also check out the Crewmate Demon Hunter list I showed you from last video. It's not on the stats just yet, but it did feel kinda nice, so might want to give it a check. For Druids, Dungar Druid could have made it into the list as well. We can see that this is the best performer with decent sample size. We also have taunt druids here and there. Not that big a sample size, not that big a win rate nowadays. And that looks like it's it for the decent looking druids at least. With hunters, Discovery Hunter is definitely nice. Spell Token, Grunter Hunter, Starship Hunter is also up there, Secret Hunter, plenty of different hunters, none of which are really doing super amazing, like nothing close to Shaman stats, but you definitely have plenty of options with hunters as well. With rogues, Honesty and Top Legend Rogue is the class to beat, so you have tons of different versions of rogue you could be clapping with. Spellburst Rogue, Weapon Rogue, Starship Rogue, Pressure Rogue, Cycle Rogue, Giant Rogue, so many toxic rogue playstyles nowadays. I feel like something needs to get done for the class really freaking soon, and I think it will be. For starters, Sonya is definitely not going to be surviving the next wave of nerfs, I can tell you that much. But yeah, right now, Rogue from Diamond to Legend is not doing that amazing. Even though, if you're good with the deck, you can do absolutely amazing, like look at this nonsense. We also have Warlock with Pain Warlock doing decently well. In skilled hands, I guess. Hand Warlock is doing okay-ish, but nothing really to write home about. And lastly, we have Warrior with Control Warrior and Odin Warrior, which is kind of basically the same thing nowadays, doing quite well. There's also this Infinity Warrior, which is super disgusting. Is this it? I'm not sure it is, I don't see the fizzle here. Oh, there he is. So yeah, this is Infinity Warrior, which basically makes a photographer fizzle that takes a picture of photographer fizzle's picture. With the help of Saloon Brewmaster or Zola if they add that one, that kind of BS. And that way they get to repeat infinite boom bosses, which can be pretty disgusting, but definitely not unbeatable. You can see how we wrecked one of these from the last Death Knight video, which was pretty fun. Dummy Warrior is still up there. The rest is iterations of these three, basically. So that's gonna be it for this top 5, guys. Hope this helps you figure out what you want to be playing in the December season. If you enjoyed the video and like what I'm doing, drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget you can hire for some Hearthstone coaching, and I can definitely help you hit Legend. Thanks for watching, I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video, or stream.